It's time for the SP Bushy Show. Here's your hosts, SP and Bushy.
Awesome. Well, I think we're ready to move into our NFL time machine game. Obviously, we've been talking about this time machine game for a few weeks now. We didn't get to do it the last 2 weeks, so we did our retro jersey retrospective and our retrospective on the Undertaker's career. But now we're ready to talk some NFL games, and we're going to talk the NFL games that we wish we could go back in time and be in the stands for. And, I'm excited to talk about it. We've talked about all the bad things in the NFL right now. Let's talk about some of these good things. Let's talk about some of these good moments, and let's talk about what we go back in time for.
I know we just crapped on the NFL for 30 minutes, and here we are. We're going to glorify the NFL now. I'm very excited for that.
Hey, it's like last week where we were glorifying wrestling in the Attitude Era. It's like going back and glorifying all these games when the NFL didn't feel like the Attitude Era. It feel like it was great.
Yes, I'm ready. This list took a long time to compose. I'm not going to lie. I had to do a lot of research on these games.
Nice. I made a list. I got about 12 games on it, and so I'm ready to rock.
Oh, let's see here with me. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. I have 16 on my list.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Yes. I feel like we're going to have maybe a couple of duplicates as well.
Oh, absolutely. So. We definitely are.
Yeah, like we always do.
Some of my 12 are like there's 2 of my 12 that kind of have 2 parts to them. So, I'm not straight 12.
I have one that are kind of like together as well. And I assume it's probably the ones that we're kind of thinking about. But we'll get to those when we get to them.
Absolutely. I'll let you kick it off, my man.
All right, kick it off. I'm going to go 1990 or 1986. I'm going to go week. I'm trying to look right here. September 21st. So I think week 3 of the NFL season in 1986. The New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins, and it was a quarterback duel for the ages, folks. We had Dan Marino and Ken O'Brien, 2 quarterbacks from that 1983 class, really going toe-to-toe with each other. Marino throwing for 448 yards and 6 touchdowns, and Ken O'Brien throwing for 479 touchdowns, including the last one to Wesley Walker to win the game in overtime.
Wow. Obviously that would have been an interesting game to be at. You kind of see that game. Obviously Marino had those big moments before that, but that game, you see him obviously one of the best of all time in a shootout against Ken O'Brien, who obviously didn't have nearly the same kind of career, but a very good career nonetheless for the Jets. And it would be an interesting game to have been at and been a part of.
Is he right up there with one of the top Jets quarterbacks of maybe the past 30 years?
Ken O'Brien?
Yes.
I would think so. It's got to be him and Sanchez, right?
Yeah, Sanchez. Vinny had a couple of good years. Yeah, Vinny. I think Vinny had a couple of good years. Chad Pennington was pretty good as well. But when you think about like the quarterbacks that they had in 2010 on after the butt fumble with Sanchez, really, I guess they would take the Ken O'Brien era with open arms.
They certainly would, and obviously Sanchez was never the same after that butt fumble, which I didn't make my list, but that would have been a fun one to see live too.
Just to see like what happened. It's like you probably would have looked at the replay and going, "What? Really? That happened?"
I would like to have been actually a referee for that game and been like the line judge, because I feel like you had to be like right there to see it live and see what happened in that.
Yeah, it would have been like a Patriots blow, and then maybe it was one of those games we would have saw the butt fumble, and then we would have left. We would have been like, okay, we saw the butt fumble. Let's head out. We know the score.
Right. Let's go see if the Celtics are playing. Or the Bruins, either way.
Actually, that game was in New York, so it's like, hey, it's New
Okay.
York around Thanksgiving. What stuff is open?
Absolutely. Actually, we could have gone to the Macy's parade before that. That would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been fun. It would have been a fun Thanksgiving
Yeah,
to have attended.
it certainly would have.
What's first on your list?
First one on my list, I got to go with Super Bowl 23. Joe Montana leads a game-winning drive for the 49ers against the Bengals. I mean, obviously, I never got to see Joe Montana play in person. This is one of those games that would have been a good one to see him clinch the Super Bowl against the Bengals. And you get to see all of the greats in that game, Jerry Rice, uh, Ronnie Lott, just a lot of good players on those Niner teams back in the day. And I think that would have been a cool one to be at.
Yeah, that would have been a fun game to attend and see maybe Cincinnati kind of pull it out. Even though we probably would have known the outcome, so we would have
Right,
been
I'm
like,
assuming
oh,
we
that would
did.
have been fun. But yeah, just to see Joe Montana really make a comeback, and you see the final game of Bill Walsh's coaching career as well. So you get to see one of the really best coaches of all time coach his final game. It would have been a fun experience to be a part of.
Certainly would have. It would have been a great one. What do you got next?
What I got next, I got 1992, the NFC Championship game between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Again, it's basically you're going from one dynasty to another. The 49ers, really an established franchise for the past 10 years, really competing for championships all that time as well. And then you have the up and coming Dallas Cowboys team with Aikman, Emmett Smith, Michael Irvin really starting to get to their prime. And it would have been just a fun game to be a part of with and and just to see the classic coaches too. You had George Seifert for the 49ers and Jimmy Johnson for the Cowboys. So it would have just been a fun game. And then you had Steve Young as well, the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, that would have been a really cool one. It would have been exciting to be at. I mean, I think you could also go back in time and bet that game and take the over because obviously the under over was set at 37 points. I just looked up. So that would have been cool to be because obviously if you go back in time, you could also go back in time and rig these sporting bets in your favor too.
Yeah, you could have done that. And it really was like a sloppy field as well. I think it rained or
Yeah,
it was raining during that game. So it's just like you had like a sloppy field and just a classic game with just a bunch of mud going. And then obviously, too, you have Jerry Rice in the game, too. You know, he scores a touchdown pass in that game. And you see just the just amazing and you get to see teams handing one dynasty to another, and then you get to see the clash really of these two teams became one of the better rivalries of the 90s for the NFL.
yeah, exactly. I like the passing of the torch of one dynasty to the other. I like it a lot.
What do you have next?
Up next, I mean, I'll let you do one more because you got more than I do. So hit me one more.
All right, next on my list I have the 2004 NFC Divisional Playoff game between the St. Louis Rams and the Carolina Panthers. This was really kind of the end of this Greatest Show on Turf era with the Rams as well, and then you have the Panthers that were led by John Fox. And they had Jake Delhomme as quarterback, and that was the one crazy year where Jake Delhomme looked all world on their way to the Super Bowl. And the game went into double overtime, and really the first play in double overtime, the game's ended on a Steve Smith kind of slant pattern, and he takes it to the house.
That would have been an exciting one to be at for sure. I remember growing up, I was actually the Rams were kind of my second team in that era. I mean, I loved watching the Greatest Show on Turf. They were a fun team to watch, and then to kind of see this up and coming Panthers team to just really come up and make some good plays. That would have been exciting to be a part of for sure.
Yeah, that Tampa team was really good. They had Mushi Muhammad and Steve Smith, I believe. I think Stephen Davis was the running back at that time. But really, I mean, they were really hampered by the quarterback with Jake Delhomme. But again, I've always had this theory that mediocre to half decent quarterbacks have that one crazy year where everything goes right, and that was Jake Delhomme's everything went right year for him.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, that was obviously a really cool moment for Jake Delhomme, and I mean to see them eventually win that game and advance to the Super Bowl. And I mean, they gave New England a fight in that Super Bowl. So I mean, it was an exciting team, that Panthers team.
Absolutely. What do you have next?
Up next, I got the 2009 playoffs. I believe it was played in 2010, but it was the NFC wildcard game between Arizona and Green Bay. It's the one of the most highest score, or I think it is the highest scoring playoff game of all time. You got the Cardinals winning it 51-45 in just this absolute shootout of a game. You have Kurt Warner going at it Kurt Warner again going at it with Aaron Rodgers and kind of this generational clash as well. You got Larry Fitzgerald on the field, and it's just an exciting game. The game goes into OT, and it is just the game ends on a 17-yard defensive play by Carlos Dansby as he takes the fumble back to clinch the win for the Cardinals.
I remember watching that game, I believe at one of my grandparents' house, and I kind of said, I was like, my God, we saw the best game of the decade, and the decade was only like 6 days old, and it really was. It was a fun game, really exciting. It was a comeback too, because Arizona was up really heavily on that game, and Aaron Rodgers did Aaron Rodgers things to really come back and force that game into an overtime as well. And really, it was a tale of two plays in that overtime. I think people forget that he had Greg Jennings wide open deep in the field. If he didn't overthrow Greg Jennings or Donald Driver, one of those receivers, it would have been a different story. It probably would have capped the legend of Aaron Rodgers. It would have started that legend.
It certainly could have, and I mean, obviously, the legend waited another year to get going. That being said, it is just a blast. I remember watching that game and just being blown away like you were, and it is a fun game. And it would have been cool to be there in Arizona just to see these Cardinals fans going crazy.
And it's just so ironic too. Like this game, which is very offensive heavy, and the game ends on a defensive touchdown.
Exactly. Well, you know how it goes, man. The first team to get a stop, right?
Yep, I guess. And the Cardinals got that stop, and it was Kurt Warner's second to last game, because I believe he retired right after this season. So it really was a shame.
It was,
and he really went out on a bang. Let's put it that way.
He certainly did, and I mean, obviously, a great career for I believe he's a Hall of Famer, Kurt Warner.
Yes.
Pride of Northern Iowa.
Yes, and he was grocery bagging at a Hy-Vee. I have been to a Hy-Vee. That's basically what like a King Soopers is an equivalent for us in the Midwest, and it's just crazy to think about that.
It certainly is, and then I got a twofer on that one, and that's the Cardinals-Packers game that also went into overtime in the 2015 early 2016 playoffs, and that was another Cardinals win in overtime against the Packers. In another exciting game, is Larry Fitzgerald catches the pass from Carson Palmer, and that's kind of two Cardinals wins over the Packers, both in the playoffs, both early on in the playoffs, but both exciting games between the Cardinals and Packers in the playoffs.
That was an exciting game. I totally forgot about that game. It really is one of the forgotten games maybe of that decade. And again, it started with a Green Bay it started with a Green Bay comeback as well, with Aaron Rodgers throwing two Hail Marys, and somehow they completed both of them. It was a very, very interesting game. And really the Cardinals, they got hit in the mouth with those two Hail Marys, but that offense came right down the field at overtime and won the game and kept Aaron Rodgers from ever getting on the field.
Which is another reason why the NFL should mirror their overtime rules to match the college rules, in my opinion.
I agree. The NFL doesn't like to admit that the college has a better overtime. I think that's why they're doing like these just hamstrung things with these rules. But doesn't really. They just want to be different.
They do, and I understand it. I just, think about the battles we could have had if you'd had some of these games in overtime, and you had to have someone get a stop.
Oh yes, especially if there's two great offenses and two bad defenses, and you go, "Wow, is this game really going to end? Is this game ever going to end?"
Absolutely. What do you got next?
Next, Going regular season again. 1983 week. Let's see here, week 7, and it's a Monday night game between the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Redskins. The game ends 48-47 for the Green Bay Packers. Lynn Dickey and Joe Theismann really just go again, another quarterback shootout as well. Joe Theismann throwing for 398 yards and 2 touchdowns. Lynn Dickey throwing for 387 and 3 touchdowns, really going back and forth with each other. And it's just an awesome, again, it's just another back and forth game where just a lot of offense and just a lot of excitement. And it happened on Monday night, and just a fun game and a fun experience to probably be at. You get to see the Redskins teams of the 80s coached by Joe Gibbs, and you get to see Joe Theismann going as well. So it would have just been a fun game to be at.
Certainly would have, but I mean, obviously, our generation doesn't have those memories of Theismann as a player, so it would be really cool to go back and see him, especially in that shootout, especially in a season where they would go on to the Super Bowl. So I mean, that would have been a really cool thing to have been a part of. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the only thing people remember as far as our generation remember Theismann as a player is the injury that he had
Right.
with LT. It just a shame what happened to him. He could have been one of the all-time greats, really, if he hadn't gotten injured. And yeah, it just would have been a fun game, and it's just an exciting game as well.
That's definitely a great one for sure.
What do you have next?
I'm going to stick with your theme there. I'm going to go with another Monday night regular season game, and that's going to be the one actually just 2 years ago between the Rams and the Chiefs. That game in L.A. was an offensive firestorm. Both teams scoring over 50 points. First time that's ever happened in a game, and it is just an insane game. I remember watching that game hoping that it was going to be the Super Bowl matchup. Once again, the NFL rigging that game against the Chiefs to keep them out of it, and instead we got the worst Super Bowl of all time between the Patriots and the Rams. And instead of that, this game to me was the Super Bowl of the 2018 season. It was such an exciting game. You got Mahomes and Goff going at it in just this insane shootout. It felt like neither defense was ever going to stop the other one. And that game was kind of the emergence of this unstoppable Chiefs offense.
Yeah, there was some defensive plays as well. I believe there was a fumble recovery for a touchdown and a pick, I believe, to seal the game. But it was a fun game, an exciting game, another Monday night game where it lived up to the hype. We were very much anticipating for this game, and it was a game that lived up to the hype and then some. It really was the two best teams, probably of. Even though the Saints had a better record, I felt like the Rams were probably the better team that year. And yeah, it really is a shame that we got this in the regular season rather than at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, or even that we didn't get Saints-Chiefs Super Bowl, because that would have been more exciting too. And it was the game we should have had anyway. That being said, there's enough of me complaining for now. But this game was phenomenal. And like I said, it was a Super Bowl caliber game on a Monday night in the regular season. It was fun. It was just everything you could have wanted. I remember we were so excited about this game. We had to go to the bar on a Monday night to watch it. And it was the last time that I remembered a game like this where felt like I've had to go to the bar to see it.
Yeah, I can't really 2009. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like 2000. Yeah, if a couple of years have passed, really, and yeah, not a lot of games where I've just been like anticipating, like, oh, I can't wait for this game to start. I can't wait for this game. Yeah, it hasn't really happened, and hopefully we'll get that sooner rather than later.
I agree. It's like I said, I haven't seen that game in a while where I'm like, all right, this is finally the game I've been waiting for. And I want that feeling, and this game was that feeling, and it was the last game I remember feeling like, okay, this is the game.
I can tell you once, I sat down and watched every minute of this game.
Mm-hmm.
It was just astonishing, just how great a football game that was.
Oh, it was a game where you had to pee quickly if you went to the bathroom, just because if you peed, you might have missed 2 scores.
It felt like that. Yeah, you're right. It felt like that.
Anyway, great game. Rams win at 54-51 at home in the Coliseum. So you are still getting to go to a historic stadium too before they opened up their big stadium.
Oh yeah, and I think it was 100,000 fans, and actually it was 100,000 fans in that stadium. Like they really packed that game in for that game.
Absolutely. Fun game for sure. What do you got next?
Next, I'm going to go 1991. Going to stay a little home. 1991, AFC divisional playoffs. Broncos versus the Houston Oilers. The drive too. It's not as exciting as the first drive with the sequel, but it's just as memorable for the aura that was John Elway. Being at that iconic Mile High Stadium, he was down at the 2 with lesser time than he had in 1986. And he had to complete 2 fourth downs to do this, to accomplish this. One he actually ran for, and then another he threw a nice pass to Vance Johnson, who ends up scooting it for, I believe, 35 yards to put the team really into field goal range. And it was just I guess just a breathtaking performance by Elway, and coming back because the Oilers were ahead in that game, and Elway doing another patented comeback.
Obviously, this is an exciting game. The Oilers, of course, obviously a no longer existing franchise, but a team that was in possession of such a huge lead. And then they end up giving it up, man. They were up throughout that game. They had a 21-6 lead, and then eventually they end up giving it up there at the end by, like you said, a big touchdown as the Greg Lewis rushing touchdown, and then the David Treadwell field goal. It clinches the win for the Broncos as time expires.
Yeah, I do got to give props too. Rewatching the game recently, Gary Kubiak actually handles the ball and kind of fumbles it a little bit, but just had enough time to put it down just a little bit so Treadwell can kick the field goal. Really, it could have been disastrous.
It certainly could have.
For the Broncos.
That game was crazy. It was like you said, a big moment in the aura of John Elway that had already kind of been established, but still very good.
Yes. What else do you have?
I'm sticking with my Monday night theme, man. I gotta go with the Monday Night Miracle, the Jets against the Dolphins. The Jets score 30 points in the fourth quarter of this game and win it in overtime.
I thought about this game, putting it on my list, but I just kind of stood back and I was like, I feel like I got enough regular season games on there. But I'm glad you put it on. Yeah, it would have been an amazing miracle to be a part of with the Jets in that crappy Meadowlands Stadium. It really was a dump. But yeah, just to see that comeback happen against the Dolphins, nonetheless.
Again, Jets Dolphins in another classic. You have Wayne Krebet catching some touchdown passes in there. You have Vinny Testaverde. I mean, you have all these. You have this just insane game between these two teams, these two division rivals, and I mean, this was just an exciting game that really kind of came down to the wire. The Jets tie it with 3:55 on the clock. The Dolphins score really quickly, and then the Jets with 42 seconds left tie the game up on a soaring pass from Jumbo Elliott that he catches from Vinny Testaverde, and then the Jets get the field goal in overtime to win it. Exciting game once again, and I mean, it is a fun game with a good rivalry too, boot. And then again, you get to be part of the New York scene and party this victory in the Meadowlands, nonetheless.
I thankfully you mentioned it. Yeah, the Jumbo Elliott touchdown. I would have mentioned that, but it was a great miracle and just an astonishing game to be a part of. And we love comebacks and probably duels. I think that's the case we see with our list. But it just overall, just a fun game to be a part of, and really it would have been just all help lost for the Jets fans, and really one of the best Jet moments probably in the past 20 years. I mean, it's probably in the top 5 for Jet fans.
It certainly is, and I mean, you look at it, and I mean, I'm kind of tipping my hand a little bit here, but you'd be surprised. I actually have 2 Jets games here on this list. So,
I have a Jets game on here as well.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets were really a perennial franchise during the AFL days when they had Joe Namath. So
absolutely,
yeah, they've just been really poor. They've just been really, really poor for the past 10 years. or I guess
Terrible.
for the past 8 years.
Terrible. So what do you got next?
Next, I have Super Bowl 52 between the Patriots and the Eagles. Very back and forth affair between these two teams. A very high scoring affair as well, with the Eagles winning 41-33 and basically sealing the game with a fumble recovery. And you have Tom Brady, and you have Nick Foles as quarterback, and then you have probably one of the most famous plays in Super Bowl history now with the Philly special. Just an overall, just a exciting game, and really a back and forth game, and it was high scoring. It was exciting. I was into this game, and really one of the more exciting Super Bowls of the past decade.
I agree. It was such an exciting game. I mean, that game was a lot of fun. I remember I was like so not looking forward to this game too. In fact, I was supposed to work a baseball game that day because I'm like, oh God, I don't like the Eagles and I don't like the Patriots. And I don't care. I mean, I guess I'm rooting for the Eagles, but the game ended up being really good. And the game I was supposed to work got snowed out anyway. So I'm glad I got to see this game. And I mean, the Eagles really did show out. You got the exciting moments with like the half or the pass to Foles and the attempted pass to Brady that he drops, and then like this like whole game of one-upsmanship. It felt like between Foles and Brady with like trick plays and stuff, and it was just a fun game.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it did snow that day, and it really was. Yeah, it was. I was like you. I was not anticipating for this game. Really, the only downside of going to this game is that it was in Minnesota, but thankfully it was in the Dome Stadium. But we would have had to spend a week in Minnesota. In Minnesota in the beginning of February, so obviously not that warm of a place. That's really probably the only downside of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends from Minnesota, and even they try to avoid it in the winter. That being said, I mean, Minnesota's one of the better places I've lived, and I mean, it's a good spot. I was there for a summer. That being said, I mean, this game would have been a blast to be at, and then you get to see that new stadium that the Vikings have put together. It would have been a fun one for sure.
It's Minnesota's fun in the summertime, but bad in the wintertime.
Right.
Speaking of Minnesota, I am. That's actually going to be next on my list, and
Well, let's hit it.
I'm going to go with with the 1999 NFC Championship game. I know a couple of people were Minnesota Vikings fans, so you can skip forward maybe the next 3 minutes or so, and if you don't want to listen, between the Vikings and the Falcons, and just two great teams from that year. You have the Falcons with the Dirty Bird with Jamal Anderson, and then you have or the Falcons, sorry, and then you have the Vikings with Randall Cunningham and Randy Moss, and Chris Carter. It's just a overall just a I guess a breathtaking game as well. And then you have the with the Gary Anderson, who hadn't missed in probably 2 years, misses a field goal that really could have put the game away, and then having the Falcons come back and actually score a touchdown to force the game into overtime. That was a pretty good feat as well.
Obviously, a very exciting game. I mean, it was one of those ones that I left off the list because my boss is a Vikings fan, and I didn't want to do anything to jeopardize my employment. That being said, I mean, this is a game. I mean, do you watch How I Met Your Mother, where like he's at that Minnesota bar and they slam the table anytime they mention this game?
Yes, is your boss like that as well? You mentioned Gary Anderson.
I don't
Does
bring
he
it
go
up. I
dang?
don't bring it up. The one thing I've told him is that in this game, as a Broncos fan, I mean, I think at that point the Broncos already had won their game, or maybe
No, they haven't. They haven't played yet.
they
They
hadn't
hadn't played yet.
But like, I remembered I was scared to death to face this Vikings team. Either way, like I thought for sure we were going to be facing this Vikings team in the Super Bowl, and this Vikings team scared me just because they were such a full of weapons. They had Randy Moss and Chris Carter, I believe, at the time. And, I mean, they were stacked offensively and defensively. They had Jonathan Randall at defensive tackle. And I remember just being elated when the Falcons team, coached by Dan Reeves, gets it done, because at that point I was definitely way more afraid of facing the Vikings in the Super Bowl as a Broncos fan than I was the Falcons.
I remember watching this game with my babysitter because my parents and then my two older brothers went to the AFC Championship game, which stinks. But I was watching the game with my babysitter, and we were cheering, we were going nuts when the Falcons won the game. It felt like the Broncos won the Super Bowl again. It's like we're going back to back, baby. Like there's no way the Falcons are going to win this game. Actually, I really kind of thought about it, but I really do think, yeah, the Vikings would have given it trouble, but I think the Broncos actually would have prevailed. It would have been a much closer game than what it was, but I think the Broncos would have prevailed. They would have tried to end it and tried to defend the crown. And actually, the Broncos defense was actually really good during the playoffs run. If you really kind of look back, just how good that defense was.
Well, that defense was stacked too. I mean, you look at it, they had Neil Smith and Romo and John Mobley and all these guys that really that defense for the late 90s Broncos was stacked too.
Yeah, Atwater, Crockett, Braxton, Neil Smith too, and Alfred Williams.
Yep.
And Trevor, you had a young Trevor Price too. So it probably would have been it probably would have been a better game than what we got.
Yeah, if the Vikings would have won that game, who knows, that Super Bowl could have been on this list. But nevertheless, I'm going to redeem it right now for the Vikings fans right now. I'm going to redeem it all for you. I'm bringing it back to the Minneapolis Miracle, Viking Saints in Minnesota there. This one just a couple years ago. Great game. And then you have that Stephon Diggs hurdle on the 61-yard pass from Case Keenum to give the Vikings the lead and the score to go ahead and win the game.
Yeah, the Vikings have a track record of having really great moments, but then really bad moments as well. And this is obviously we talked about the bad moment earlier with me, but then we're talking about a good moment with them as well. It's just a great finish, an exciting finish, I guess, and one of these wow, you had to see to believe type of moments.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Saints kicking the go-ahead field goal with 25 seconds left. Vikings, which are such a, as we've talked about, snake bit franchise, to have that moment where they are able to answer and get this play that was just an insane play with the Diggs hurdle and such an insane catch by him as well. And, I mean, unfortunately, it led the Broncos to signing Case Keenum and paying him way too much money. But nevertheless, it's a great moment. And, I mean, the Vikings, like you said, have this great moment that then, of course, they follow up with an egg laying later on. But such an exciting moment, and it would have been cool to be there for this game in Minnesota to see just the reaction of the crowd.
Yeah, especially since the Vikings fans really have been a tortured franchise, and just probably see them elated and exciting of oh my God, a really good moment that happens, and it really has started a track record now of these these snake bitten Saints playoff moments as well. So who knows, we could see it again this coming playoffs for the Saints, but we will wait and see. But it just again, just a great moment, and just I guess kind of a bonehead moment too. It's just with the Saints defenders, like what are they doing? Like it felt like it was a Raheem Morris situation. It's like, what are they doing?
Absolutely. I mean, Raheem Moore, part of that game in the Mile High City Miracle.
That will never be on my list.
It would never be on my list either, but I mean, for non-Denver fans, it might be. So if that game is on your list, feel free to drop it in the comments below. We'll mention you, but nevertheless, it is a game where that one is.
That game was cold. I was there. That game was cold.
I know. That's one. Trust me, I watched that game, and I had people that I know that were at that game. Based on the cold, even if you were a Ravens fan, you may not have wanted to be at that game.
It was cold, and it really was like a zombie-like atmosphere going out of that game. Like it was just shock, and it really felt like we were just a bunch of zombies. Like we were just in shock of, wow, we can't believe that just happened.
Well, I think we've given that game more than enough time. What do you got next?
I agree. I am going back all the way to 1968, another regular season game, and it's Week 11, Jets against the Raiders, or as been known as we know today as the Heidi Bowl. You have probably two of the top teams in the AFL vying for that spot to go to the Super Bowl, and this was a very important game as well. And if you don't know the story, the Jets kick a field goal to make it 31-28 with about a minute to go in the game, and the NBC broadcasters decided, oh, this game's over. Forget about it, and they switched over to the program to watch this made-for-TV movie called Heidi, and what turns out to be probably one of the biggest blunders in probably television and sports history. The Raiders score twice in the next probably minute to win the game, and and you see this probably one of the famous scenes of Heidi is this girl in a wheelchair trying to climb up and trying to walk. She ends up slipping and knocking the wheelchair down a hill, and here comes this sports update with the ticker of showing the game, of showing the score.
Wow. That would have been an incredible game to be a part of, just because of that infamy, and really because that was the only way that you could ever see what ended up happening at the end of that game.
The only downside, though, it was in Oakland at the time, so having to deal with Raider fans, so that would have been the only drawback to it. But it's just crazy. And it changed really broadcasting forever with television.
Yeah, obviously it's such a key moment for broadcasting, and it just would have been an interesting one to be a part of. And was John Madden the coach then, or did he come in the next year?
He was not the coach, but he was with the coaching staff at the time.
Still, I mean, it would have been cool to see John Madden on the sidelines too.
Absolutely, and we would have seen Daryl LaMonica and Joe Namath go at it with each other as well. So it would have been a nice quarterback duel, an old school AFL game as well, with just a really crazy finish that the fact that probably 3/4 of the country didn't see at all. I did hear that people on the West Coast got to see the finish, but yeah, people from basically from the Midwest on didn't get to see the game. They just saw a movie.
Wow. That's amazing to think about.
All right, what's next on your list?
Up next for me, this one's kind of in the craziness type thing too, and that is going to be Super Bowl 47. And it's going to be Ravens 49ers. It's an insane game. The power goes out, and it would have been just crazy to be at the Superdome and I'd be there when the power goes out in the middle of the Super Bowl. And then on top of that, you have this insane game where the Ravens get out to this huge lead. The 49ers start coming back and making a game of it. And I mean, in the end, the Ravens still get the victory. But I mean, even in the last seconds, it looks like the Ravens are going to blow it by an oversnapped punt that ends up almost costing them the game.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been epic, yeah. But just being in New Orleans all week for Super Bowl week, that would have been an exciting time, and yeah, just a really weird game as well. Because the Ravens dominated the first part of that game, and really the momentum changed after the power outage, and
right.
it was just crazy just to think about, and it's just wow, is this really happening? I think they probably could have played. If you really saw some of the lights, I think they probably could have played the game with the handicap of the lights. But again, who knows? They just wanted to put the lights on because the NFL just wants to make it a fair game.
Yeah.
But it just yeah, and the Ravens had to make a goal line stand to win the game.
Yeah, it's an insane game. You got the Harbaugh brothers coaching against each other. You kind of have that last season where Kaepernick's good. You have the last season where Joe Flacco's good. You have the timeless Frank Gore in this game and his only Super Bowl appearance, I believe. And it's just an insane game. And just to be there for this power outage and then see everyone trying to turn on their cell phone cameras or whatnot and just kind of be part of this New Orleans party in the dark. Just to see what would have happened in the dark would have been crazy.
Right, and you would have saw Ray Lewis's final game as well. That was his final game. Him and his deer antler spray on that bicep, that magical healing potion known as deer antler spray. and you have Ed Reed too for the. I believe Ed Reed was still with the Ravens at that time, and yeah, just overall just a fun game.
It is. It's a crazy game. And I mean, yeah, Ed Reed was on that game in that game as well. You got Terrell Suggs, part of like this like huge Ravens defense coming in. And I mean, it would have been a fun one to be a part of. Randy Moss is in that game. Randy Moss is on the Niners in that game.
Oh yeah, too. Yeah, and you had Michael Crabtree. He was part of that game as well. And yeah, Vernon Davis too. Yeah, just really good players on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
All right. Next on my list, I'm going 1981 AFC Divisional Playoffs. The Dolphins against the Chargers, and it's what is known as the Epic in Miami. Right. It ends with the Chargers winning 41-38 in overtime, and it was just I guess just an amazing back and forth game as well. The Chargers got up early. They got up 24-0, and then you have the Dolphins kind of storming back, and they actually perform a hook and ladder play. The Dolphins do, and you just have those Charger offense from the 80s with Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow, that exciting team, and you have Don Coryell against Don Shula, just a great coaching matchup, and then you have basically Kellen Winslow just doing just amazing things as well. Scoring touchdowns, blocking field goals. He was a one-man game.
Yeah, I mean, that game would have been a really cool one to be a part of. It was one of the ones that just barely missed my list, but it was an insane game, and then I would much rather have Dan Fouts in the game as opposed to on commentary. But that's another issue. That being said, it's a fun game, and I mean, it was just kind of this big moment for the Chargers too. A Chargers team that up until that point had been kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I mean the Dolphins were one of the best team, probably one of the best run franchises at that time, and then you have the Chargers, who are an up and coming team. I guess you have a lasting image as well with Kellen Winslow walking out with the help of two of his teammates, and it's just like that's like an embodiment of football when you kind of think about it.
Sure, it is. Obviously, great moment, great game. I'm going to roll it into my next game. I got the. What's that?
Oh, move your screen down.
Oh crap!
There you go.
I'm excited here.
There you go. We'll edit that out.
We may not. We'll see what happens. I mean,
all right. What's next on your list?
I got the immaculate reception. I got the Steelers against the Raiders. This is obviously a legendary game. Back in the day, you get the Steelers kind of at the start of their dynasty as they start taking off. You have Franco Harris with this game-winning catch on a 60-yard pass from Terry Bradshaw, clinch it against the Raiders. Once again, you got John Madden on the sidelines for the Raiders. And then, like I said, you got one of the biggest plays in one of the most historic franchises in the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a great moment, great game.
Yeah, it was a defensive slugfest as well. It was a very close game to begin with, and yeah, just an astonishing game with an astonishing play as well. Really, that just epitomizes the Steeler dynasty when you think about it. You could point to that and say that's a play that started the Steelers dynasty, and that's what happened. And having Franco just really catching the ball out of the air and winning the game for Pittsburgh.
And you got Mean Joe Green there too.
Yeah, those great Steeler players as well, Mel Blount as well, and Jack Ham and Jack Lambert too. So just a defensive slugfest that really ended on a crazy offensive play.
Certainly, it would have been an incredible game to be there for.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit cold. It was in Pittsburgh in January or in late December, so it would have been a little bit cold. And you have Three River Stadium as well, so
would have been a fun one for sure. What do you got next?
What I got next, I got the 1992 AFC wildcard game, the Oilers against the Bills. One of the greatest, basically the greatest comeback in NFL playoff history. I know people are saying maybe 24-3 with the Vikings and Patriots. I say no. This is for me the Oilers against the Bills. The Bills were down 35-3 at one point, and they came all the way back to win this game. It was a game of two halves. Just the first half, Warren Moon and the Oilers with the run and shoot, just torturing this Bills defense, who were very good at the time, if not one of the best defenses in the league. And then you have Frank Reich making an amazing comeback as well.
Yeah, it's true. It's Frank Reich. It's not Jim Kelly. It's Frank Reich as he comes in, kind of shows up Warren Moon. And I mean, this game is called the comeback for a reason. It was actually the next game on my list as well. It was a very good game. Once again, you got the Hall of Famers from the Bills in that era. And it was part of like this Bills era that was so good with Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed and Don Beebe. And I mean, this is just a huge, huge, exciting game. And then you have Steve Christie kicking the game-winning field goal in overtime. And it was just a slugfest between these two teams in such a good game. And like you said, it was for them to rally from 35-3, especially in those times when the offenses weren't nearly as quick and seemingly as high-powered, was just unheard of.
Right, and this was a Stefan from SNL game. I mean, this game had everything. You had a comeback. You had high-scoring offense. You had defensive mishaps. You had a fumble of the snap from a field goal attempt. You have picks. You had overtime. You even had an onside kick as well. It was everything you could ask for in a game, and then some. And then you have people leaving the game and trying to get back into the game as well.
Exactly. And I mean, you get to be there with these Bill stands as they celebrate in the freaking cold too.
Absolutely. And hang out with the Bills Mafia.
Yeah, that would have been a fun one. It would have been a great one. I kind of had this game as part of like a two-parter, and it was I'm going to roll it into the Titans getting their revenge on the Bills in the Music City Miracle. So I kind of had these two paired together because they were both wild card games between these same two teams. I mean, obviously it was after the Oilers had moved to Tennessee, but then you have the Music City Miracle that ends up leading the Titans to this incredible game that they end up winning on a lateral on a kickoff to come back and win the game.
Yeah, and you had controversial as well. Is it a lateral? Is it not? I think it was. That's just my opinion. Yes, Frank Wycheck, just the Kevin Dyson. And you had Steve McNair, Eddie George, Siobhan Curse for the Titans. You still had Andre Reed and Bruce Smith. They were still there for the Bills. You had Rob Johnson as quarterback instead of Doug Flutie, which was a really weird thing. You had I know it's like you have the all-time mediocre coach and Jeff Fisher kind of coaching, and just a crazy finish as well. It's just you couldn't ask for anything else.
You really couldn't. And I mean, both of these games between these two teams, it was a very, very big, it felt like playoff rivalry between the two just because of these two games.
Yeah, it was probably a revenge factor because there were a couple of people who were on that Oilers team, and it's just like, we got revenge on them, in a very controversial fashion, and it's crazy to think about. That was the last time the Bills were in the playoffs for 18 years. It's just crazy to think about when you look back at it.
And now they're at the top of their division and they're looking good. So I mean, it's good to see them kind of back.
Yeah, they are kind of back. I guess the 90s may be making a run back. Hopefully.
Exactly. I got 5 more. How many more you got?
Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6.
All right, then we'll go to you next.
All right. Next on my list, we have Super Bowl 38 between the Patriots and the Panthers. I know I talked about the Panthers earlier on with that game against St. Louis, and that really kind of propelled them as well because they really dominated and defeated the Eagles the following week. And they played against a really good Patriots team that were in the middle of this 3 out of 4 stretch. And you had Tom Brady against Jake Delhomme, and Jake Delhomme really went toe to toe against Tom Brady. in this game, and it ended with a Adam Vinatieri field goal to win it at the end.
Yeah, I would never go back in time to watch another Patriots win. If I could go back and change history, I might go back and change the outcome of this game. Nevertheless, it was an exciting game. The Patriots do get the victory, and I mean, it was such an exciting moment to see Delhomme kind of going head to head with Brady.
Yeah, it was just crazy because he had just an epic game as well, with both teams scoring 35 points together in the fourth quarter. Like, it really was like a back and forth affair in that fourth quarter, where it just like it seemed like the defense couldn't stop the offense at all.
Always exciting in those games for sure.
All right, what do you have next on the list?
Up next, I'm going to stick with that same Titans team that I was just talking about. And in the Super Bowl, they get stopped by the Rams 1 yard short of the game-tying touchdown. And the Rams end up getting the victory 23-16. Rams celebrate the Super Bowl with the greatest show on turf in a very exciting game. Once again, you have the tackle 1 yard shy of the goal line. And that is just an iconic moment, and it would have been an iconic game to be a part of.
Yeah, just a fun game, and really an exciting game. It just seemed the greatest show on turf. I guess really kind of hampered a little bit, but they kind of did their thing here or there. And then, just the game ending with 1 yard short from the end zone and 1 yard short from making it an overtime game.
Exactly. And then Kevin Dyson, again, that player that stopped 1 yard short. I mean, it feels like it's weird that we mentioned Kevin Dyson twice on the same podcast, but here you go. As he gets stopped by Mike Jones, 1 yard short on a great pass from Steve McNair.
Mike Jones. Sorry.
You got Eddie Jordan there, Isaac Bruce, you got Torrey Holt. I mean, you get Marshall Faulk. You get the whole crew. It would have been an exciting game and an exciting moment as the Rams celebrate their first championship and their only championship to this point, as well as bringing the city of St. Louis a football championship.
Yeah, and it's funny that like 1 yard really separated from Dick Vermeil from being a coach, probably one of the top coaches who have never won a championship, to Jeff Fisher being a Super Bowl winning coach as well. So I mean, that 1 yard really makes a difference, folks, when you kind of look back at it.
It sure does, man. That was a great game. One of my favorites, for sure.
All right. So next on my list, I have a 1981, the NFC Championship game between the 49ers and Dallas. And this was to come to known as the catch. This is obviously I have to put this on this list because this is the reason why we have this time machine segment on our podcast. Just talking with my friend Paul, and he said his parents were at a game at this game, and it would have been like, or his grandparents were actually at this game, and it was just one of those, oh man, I would have loved to have been at this game. And just got to give credit where credit's due, and just two all-time good coaches as well, and just an all-time great finish.
Certainly, it's one of those iconic games. I left it off of my list because I knew you were going to put it on your list, and it's like it was one of those games I figured we were going to talk about it. But yeah, one of the most iconic catches in NFL history. Again, you get Montana as the quarterback in this one. And you do get two great coaches going at it, two great teams. It's a very exciting game for sure.
Yeah, and just probably an iconic moment too in NFL history, and that's Clark catching the ball and scoring the touchdown. Just an overall just great image from the cameraman looking at it, and then hitting Clark with the touchdown, and then you have the referee with this going touchdown as well. So it's just an overall just a fun game. It would have been great to be a part of and to see the start really of this 49ers dynasty.
It would have been such an amazing moment to be a part of, and the start of the rivalry between the 49ers and the Cowboys.
Yeah, it would have been just a great rivalry that had moments here or there, but really it picked up in the early 80s, and then it picked up again in the early to mid 90s.
Yeah, awesome game for sure.
All right, what do you have next?
All right, we're going to go from the catch to the helmet catch, man. I got to go Super Bowl 42. David Tyree with the helmet catch leads the Giants to victory in an exciting comeback over the New England Patriots. Big victory for the Giants. Big moment with the helmet catch, and such a fun last drive there from Eli Manning and the Giants to win this game.
Yeah, and if we want, we could have put maybe their regular season affair, their week 17 affair, on that list as well. That was an exciting, fun game with the Patriots coming back and winning that game in the Meadowlands to go 16-0 for the regular season. Both games probably could have been on our list, and just an exciting moment with the helmet catch. It was David Tyree's last catch, which it's crazy to think about as well. And then again an amazing comeback too of Eli Manning dethroning the undefeated Patriots.
Yeah, handing them that first loss, and the 72 Dolphins had to wait till February, but they still got to do their toast to celebrate being the only undefeated team in history. I mean, obviously, such an iconic game, such an iconic moment with the helmet catch. And like I said before, I mean, you could have included the regular season game in there too, but I'm never going back in time to watch another Patriots victory.
Just a crazy play as well. Like Manning avoids the sack, and you kind of see it. He kind of like hurls it. He doesn't really even look at the player. Like it's crazy. Like he kind of takes a look away, and just really just an interesting play as well, and it probably an iconic play.
Very iconic play, very iconic victory from the Giants team with Tom Coughlin as the head coach that ends up finding a way to get it done. They rally too from a little bit of a deficit there. They were down 14-10, and then they come back and win it on the touchdown to Plaxico Burress before he shot himself. 35 seconds left on the clock. Big victory.
Yeah, and you have a great front four as well with the Giants, with Michael Strahan, O.C. Umenyiora, Justin Tuck too. Just a great front four that really got hot at the right time and really demolished that Patriots team.
Absolutely, and then you have Monty Toomer, always a fun wide receiver as well.
Yes, and then Brandon Jacobs too, a very like a decent running back, but I remember him as well. I think because I had him on fantasy for many years.
Exactly. What do you got next?
Next, I got kind of a double whammy. For 1986 and 1987. I have the drive and the fumble going on. Obviously, two great teams of that era between the 80s, probably those late 80s Broncos and those late 80s Browns. Great quarterback too. You have John Elway against Bernie Kosar. You have Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner. And then you have Vance Johnson and Mark Jackson as well for the Broncos. Just an iconic game too, and you have really decent, really good coaches with Dan Reeves and Marty Schottenheimer as well, and then having Elway really extend his aura that really starts the aura of John Elway with the drive in 1986.
Yeah, this one was probably my number one. These two moments, I kind of had this two for coming a little bit later on. I'll talk about it now. Obviously, this is a great moment. You have the iconic drive with the Broncos seemingly having no chance, starting the drive at their own 2-yard line. They come back down. They march down the field. They get the touchdown to tie it. They get the field goal to win it, and, in overtime. And that's an iconic game. And then a year later at Mile High Stadium, it looks like the Browns are going to be the team to plead the spoiler to finally advance to that first Super Bowl. And then Biner, normally a very sure-handed back, fumbles it as he's going in at the goal line. Such an iconic moment for the Broncos franchise and such a disappointing moment for the Browns. Nevertheless, it's a huge victory and one that sent the Broncos to back-to-back Super Bowls. And I think that Marty Schottenheimer's nightmares are still haunted by John Elway.
I agree, and just have just Elway really doing some crazy plays as well, because I believe like a third down as well, like Steve Watson, they accidentally mistimed the snap, and Steve Watson hits his leg, and Elway has to make this really acrobatic play during the drive and make that as well. And you have Cleveland in 1987 really coming back, because the Broncos dominated the first half of that game. Like it looked like to be a laugher. But the Cleveland Browns came back. Ernest Biner actually had a really, really good game in that game. It's just a shame that he's probably his lowest moment was fumbling. But again, a great play too by Jeremiah Castile to kind of knock the ball loose as well, which I think people really kind of forget about that play as well.
Yeah, you definitely forget about Castile's moment there of sealing that victory. That being said, it's such an iconic moment there at Mile High, probably one of the most iconic ones possible. And such a key moment for this Broncos franchise.
Yeah, and it set off really probably this decade of dominance with the Broncos, really kind of making them a formidable team to really think about come playoff time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you go back and like you said, you look at that game. Ernest Biner had 120 yards receiving and 67 yards rushing. He had a touchdown run and a touchdown pass or touchdown catch in that game, rather. So I mean, obviously he was so key in getting them to that spot. But then, obviously, like you said, remembered for his lowest moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, that defense made some bad plays. The Browns defense in '87 as well. I mean, they couldn't really get a tackle on Mark Jackson and him just really just going down the sideline and scoring that touchdown. And then the screen pass to Sammy Winder was just like, man, just a bunch of missed tackles as well, and just making Sammy Winder look like look like LaDainian Tomlinson on that play. It's just yeah. It was. I have to really suspect the Browns defense on that as well.
Awesome, man. What do you got next?
For next, I'm going to go 1988 NFC Divisional Playoff game, the Bears against the Eagles, which is also known as the Fog Bowl. People don't know it was kind of a warm day based on Illinois standards. It was kind of in the mid to high 30s as well. And then with the cold air and the warm air, this fog just seemed to descend on Soldier Field. You have and people couldn't watch the game at all. I think it just would have been an interesting game to be a part of. It would have been like, wow, this is weird. Like just to see this really dense fog really make people not watch the game at all.
Yeah, it would have been crazy. And I mean, it would have been crazy to even see the game played just because of how thick that fog was. To see how the players were responding to it would have been insane too.
Yeah, and you had the PA announcer relay, or I think you had the ref, basically being a play-by-play guy, and it's just like it's crazy because it's just they go like a few feet and they disappear. It was really insane. It really, I guess, I guess it goes to the fair play element with the NFL that hey, both teams are playing in the fog, so we got to play.
Hey, I mean, it was definitely one of those iconic games for sure. It would have been an exciting one. Plus, then you get to celebrate with the Bears fans after that game.
Yeah, and you would have sat in Soldier Field before it got renovated, so that classic stadium as well. I've always liked that classic look. I know that they had to update it, but I always liked the old school Soldier Field look.
Hey, I do too, man. I'm right there with you. That would have been a cool spot to see a game at for sure.
What else? What do you got?
All right, I got two more. Just because we already talked about the drive.
I do as well.
I'm gonna go to Super Bowl III. The Jets against the Baltimore Colts. One of the most iconic games ever, just because of the guarantee made by Joe Namath. Jets coming into this game as a 16-point underdog. It's not a super special game. The game ends 16-7, and the Jets really do take over from the get. But to see the Jets defense put on a clinic and back up this claim made by their quarterback, I mean, it's the reason that Joe Namath was still the celebrity guest picker on last week's College Game Day. Like, at the end of the day, it's such a big moment for the NFL, for Joe Namath, and it's like the first moment where the Super Bowl really becomes iconic.
Yeah, it's the most iconic, probably one of, if not the most iconic Super Bowl moment is Joe Namath walking off, holding the one finger. Just a great moment to be a part of. And I kind of left it off my list, but I figured I took the gamble because I figured you would probably put on it. So it would have been just an interesting game to see. Obviously, we'd had Johnny Unitas in at quarterback as well, even though he didn't start at the game, but he came in relief. You have young Don Shula as a coach, and then you have Weeb Eubank, who will probably be on a game that I will probably do next. And yeah, just two great coaches, and then an iconic moment, him guaranteeing that they would win. And it was really probably the highest point probably in the AFL's 10 years is that victory.
Certainly was. I mean, certainly an iconic moment, and certainly like one of those games that's still talked about today.
Yeah, and just like a tidbit, like the NFL was really discussing because of this NFL AFL thing that maybe like the next year could they make the Super Bowl between two NFL teams rather than the AFL versus the NFL at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible history note there.
It is.
All right, what do you got next?
Next, I'm going back. I'm going back a few years to 1958 in the NFL championship game between the Colts and the Giants. It is also what people have known as the greatest game ever played. It was an amazing game. You have just unbelievable coaches, especially on the Giants side, with Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi being the offensive to defensive coordinators of the Giants team. And you have Don Meredith for the Giants, and you have Johnny Unitas for the Colts. And and the game goes to the overtime, and was shown, and it was shown in on TV, and it really puts the launching pad into the stratosphere of football becoming what we know today.
Certainly was, and this game's played at Yankee Stadium, and it's called the greatest game ever played, and it really is called that for a reason. Such an iconic game. You get Johnny Unitas again in this, one of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You have Pat Summerall as the kicker, the longtime broadcaster for the Giants. So, I mean, it's kind of an iconic game, obviously. It's one that really gets talked about a lot, and for good reason. It's such a good game between two really good teams, and like you said, it's a launching pad to the NFL's popularity right now.
Yeah, and Raymond Berry too, a very good, probably one of the best wide receivers at that time. And again, another interesting tidbit too. While the Colts were driving, I think to score the winning touchdown, they had kind of like a Saints, or they kind of had like a Ravens 49ers thing where the power kind of goes out at the network truck, and they had no feed whatsoever.
Oh,
So what happened was a network executive acted as a fan and ran onto the field and was running around. It's one of the craziest things too. You have some idiot running on. You think it's some idiot running on the fan. Turns out it was an NBC executive trying to stall time so they could put the power back on for the executive truck, so people could see this kind of moment. This could have been a Heidi Bull situation if it wasn't for that NBC executive.
quick thinking, take the arrest for the team.
Yes, exactly. He probably could have been like, I'm an NBC executive at that time. Yeah. It would have been fun. And it's just an iconic game. And you have Johnny Unitas making basically starting a 2-minute drill basically to tie the game and force the game into overtime.
Obviously, exciting game. I think we both know what's number one here, where we're going for this last one, I'm assuming, right?
All right, what is it?
It's going to be Super Bowl 32, Broncos-Packers. John Elway leads the Broncos to their first Super Bowl victory. He gets helicoptered in such an iconic moment, and the Broncos win a very exciting Super Bowl against the defending champions in the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and you have basically Bill Walsh disciples with Mike Holmgren against Mike Shanahan, and you just have and you have Brett Favre really, coming off 3 straight MVPs, and then you have the old gun and John Elway trying to win a Super Bowl in his 4th try, and then you have Terrell Davis becoming probably the best running back in the league. He won Super Bowl MVP, and just an overall just a fun game and a back and forth game as well.
Back and forth battle, actually. Obviously, we talk about John Elway and that iconic moment of him getting helicoptered and him running for the touchdown. He didn't throw for a touchdown. In fact, he only completes 12 passes in this game. But Terrell Davis is there. He picks up the slack. He runs for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns to become the MVP of that Super Bowl. We already talked about this Broncos defense. They had so many big names on that team. Obviously, you have some great names on that Packers squad as well. You mentioned Favre, Dorsey Levens, Antonio Freeman, just these guys who turned this team into such a powerhouse there in the mid-90s for this Packers squad. And then you also have Desmond Howard, who was someone who was so feared going into that game that honestly, you were more afraid of him at times than you were the Packers.
Yeah, and he had, I believe, like Leroy Butler, Darren Sharper too were on the Packers defense as well. So they were stacked. It really was a stacked team when you really kind of look back at it, just really just a stacked all around for both sides of the ball. And not to mention with the offensive line, you have Tom Nalen, you have Gary Zimmerman in at tackle as well. It really was. What? Oh yeah, Mark Schlereth. Yeah, just a fun game. It really was.
Reggie White.
Yeah, Reggie White. Neil Smith as well, and Alfred Williams and Keith Tractor Trailer. We're listing off all these names, and it's just like, wow, these were very prominent people in the '90s as far as NFL. Not superstars, but NFL players that you know.
And of course, NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp too, another big part of that Broncos attack.
Yes, I agree with you. Elway didn't really have that good of a game. I've watched the game and just looking back at it, I'm like, man, Elway did not have that good of a passing game. You know, he did a lot more with his legs. He ran for the touchdown early on in the game, and then obviously with the helicopter run. Again, it would have been just a fun moment to be a part of, especially with being a Broncos fan, being at the Super Bowl all those times and really losing. Mm-hmm. And it would have been just an elated moment just seeing them win the Super Bowl or in their first Super Bowl. I mean, we were going nuts here in my room where I'm actually in the living room when the Broncos won the championship.
I mean, that's awesome that you're getting to relive those moments. I mean, it was such an iconic game for me. I mean, it was unbelievable elation that we had winning this game, and it was just that crowning moment of our childhood, honestly.
Yes, remember? Remember we had a guy named. Were you with me in third grade?
I think so. I think I know where
I had Miss Morris. I had Miss Morrison.
Yeah. I had Miss Mormon. But I think I know where you're going with this because I think we all had recess at the same time.
Yeah, we all had recess at the time, and there was this. I don't remember his last name, but I remember his first name was Andy.
Yeah, I don't remember his last name either, but I remember his name's Andy. Yep.
Yep, his name's Andy. He was a big Packers fan at the time, and he was talking a lot of stuff during that Super Bowl week, and he thought that the Packers were going to win, and they were going to be an amazing team, and they were going to defeat the Broncos and all that, and. He did eat a little crow. He did eat a little crow at the time, but I will give him props. He was the day after the Super Bowl. He was rocking Packers gear. He was wearing his cheese head as well. So I got to give him props to that.
Chasing him to try and beat him up for wearing that cheese head. I remember that was.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that bull. I don't remember the bullying aspect.
What's that?
I don't remember the bullying aspect about that, but yeah, I remember. I don't know why. I just remember Andy doing that.
I don't know that anyone ever did, but I know that everyone was chasing him.
He was a quick kid. He really was. He was kind of short, but he was kind of fast.
I don't know that anyone ever caught him. I just know that everyone was chasing him. Except maybe you. You were the nice guy. I was in that group that was chasing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, me and Chris Hall were kind of the nice guys. We were like, okay, let them have fun. Oh, but yeah, God, it's funny just thinking about that. I really haven't thought about that in probably 20.
I didn't know anyone else remembered that moment, but or that kid Andy wearing all that cheesehead gear. But that's crazy.
It's funny how we remember stuff. See that, folks. Yeah. This is why we've been two lifelong friends who can talk about sports.
Because we're the only two people who remember this kid getting chased around for wearing his cheese head to school the following day.
And this is third grade, people. This has been 22 years ago. You know, I can't remember stuff that's happened a couple of hours ago or a couple of days ago, but I remember this.
Exactly. I can't remember people I meet at events, but I remember this moment of us just chasing Andy around and trying to whoop him for wearing this cheese head. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he got away. That being said, I'm sure he's okay now. And if he's not, I hope he's out there somewhere watching this show. And we appreciate you all watching this show as well.
He lasted a year, and I think he bolted. I don't remember. I remember being here for third grade, but that's it.
Yeah,
exactly. I remember
that too.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate y'all watching the show. Thanks again for tuning in this week. We will be back next week. Again, who knows what we're going to be chatting about? We're going to figure it out, but we hope you'll join us. We hope you'll follow this week.
I think it has to do with a little bit called professional wrestling, folks.
Again, all right. I like it.
Yes, we will have a little professional wrestling talk.
Awesome. I can't wait for that. Obviously, I love the wrestling. We got a big week next week. We hope you'll follow us along on Twitter this week as we chat about the games on Twitter. Get our live thoughts. Once again, it's at SP Bushy. Once again, we appreciate you watching us, and have a great day.
Peace.